Hi everyone, it's David, week 30, once again in Granada. Sorry, it's been a long time, something like a whole month, but it's been a pretty calm month. I don't feel like I can say that I've done a whole lot, although, again, I always start my videos saying that, so we'll see how this goes. First thing I wanted to get out of the way is I'll be back definitively on September 15th or 16th, whichever one of those two is a Monday. I'll be spending about a week in Muskego, then hoping to go down to my new place, which I'm still frantically looking for, in Chicago for a week to get myself oriented before I start to teach Spanish for the first time ever, September 29th, which I'm kind of excited about. I was just talking to a friend of mine, Jamie, who probably isn't watching this, but maybe is. He's rarely ever on Facebook, so I don't think he will be. But just talking to him just kind of made me remember that, well, I do like teaching. I've been kind of discouraged with how difficult things have been for one reason or another in terms of getting to a point where I can teach Spanish over the past 9 months, but at the end of the day, I do like teaching, and the kids at U Chicago are a complex, challenging, yet very, very fun group from what I've been told. So that was good. I mentioned in the last video that I went down to visit Maria's parents in Cadiz. And they actually live in San Fernando, which is like 10, 15 minutes away. But just in case you were following this whole trip along on Google Maps, now you'd know exactly the site. So that was fun. It was just kind of a week of going to the beach, catching up on movies. I saw Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and something else too, but I can't remember what it was, which is kind of strange. I guess the Planet of the Apes. No, X-Men: Days of the Future Past. I finally saw, even though that's been, I think, in and out of the. It's probably on video now in the U.S. Anyway, both were good. I also saw Guardians of the Galaxy, though that wasn't in San Fernando. But it was nice. It was kind of fun to satisfy the geeky scientific side of me that's been sort of languishing as I haven't gone to the movies in quite a long time. So that was good. San Fernando, beaches, saw the movie, got to hang out with her parents, which are really, really fun. Her mother's a full-time nurse at a center that does just diagnoses and checkups. I don't, she told me more details, but it's slipping my mind right now. And her father was also a nurse, but now he's retired and does a very specific sort of etymology, focusing on a very specific sort of beetles, looking at how the ones in North Africa and the ones in Spain have sort of branched off despite being from different or from similar ancestors a long, long time ago. So that was fun. The tuna down there is really, really good. I also saw the Roman city of Biolocalium, which was really, really cool. It was the size of probably something like 4 city blocks square, and just really, really well done. You had the forums, the temple, the theater, a lot of things that have just been really, really remarkably well preserved or brought back into being by the archaeologists. And the tour was really, really informative. Um, Got to see a bit more of the Spanish countryside, which was cool. I'm sort of getting used to the countryside up here, which is really characterized by olive groves, or if not there, if you go a bit further up north, it's like around Madrid, it's rocky, there's lots of livestock. Further on south is really different. Like I saw a lot more forest than I was expecting, which is kind of interesting since, I wasn't really expecting to see as many forests as I did this far south. Saw wind farms, went to a spot where you can actually see Africa from this side of the Mediterranean. That was really cool. Went to a different spot where we it was the marks the delineation between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. So we bathed in the Atlantic and then ran over and bathed in the Mediterranean. So that was fun. Trying to read what else. Really had a lot of good food there. It just was meal after meal. of everything that was just really, really good. Like I have tuna here on a daily basis. This frozen fillets that I buy from the supermarket, and fresh tuna, like right from the ocean, is nothing. It's like a whole head above better than that. So that was really, really cool. I also saw. Oh, we also went to Maria and I also went to Jerez, which is Spanish for sherry. So we got a tour of the Tío Pepe, I guess, which is sort of like the sherry that is everywhere. That like I presume they sell in the U.S. They said they sell in the U.S. That was kind of a letdown. But then we went to this little Tamanco, which is kind of a distinctly Jerez type concept where you have a whole bunch of people sitting around drinking on these barrels made out of tables. They give you cheese or ham, and they have a couple of barrels full of various kinds of sherry behind the counter that is usually homemade or made by a family or something like that. And they have a lot of really, really good varieties. And I have to say, I was really, really blown away. Like it was a kind of crash course, mad, wild introduction into the really how good sherry can be. And there's so many varieties. There's Amontillado, which is very, very dry, but just has an incredibly complex flavor. It just, you take a sip and it's like 7 different things all at once. So that was really good, really good. Also had something called creme, which is similar. It's a bit more on the sweet side. That was also good. Oloroso, which is a bit more on the dry side. Amontillado is my favorite. And Pedro Jimenez, which is good because it is kind of like drinking raisins, but better. It's as sweet as raisins, but it still preserves a lot of sort of that complexity that you have in sherry. So it's really good. I bought 4 bottles, and I'm going to try to find find a way to bring back into the U.S., which I'm then going to give to Thomas. Although hopefully he'll come visit me while I have them, so I'll be able to have my fill before he whisked them off to Indiana. But I'm pretty happy. I've owed Thomas for a long time. I think I forgot to buy him a birthday present, and I was going to bring him back some wine last time, and I ended up drinking the wine. It wasn't even all that good of wine. So I'm bringing him 4 bottles of some really, really good stuff, assuming that it hasn't somehow gone bad, kind of sitting around in my bedroom, which is a pretty cool, dark location, so I don't imagine it would be. But Danny, if you happen to be watching this, you will like the Pedro Jimenez. It's really, really good. You'll like it. So that was one thing. I also went to a wedding down there. I came back up here for a few weeks, continued doing the whole cycle of meeting with the tutor for 2 times a week, writing something for her, discussing it, or going over some sort of abstract grammar thing, as well as, sorry, lengthy tangent, working on my oral exams list, which is going pretty well. I'm sort of stalled out in that I emailed it to one professor, and he sort of implied that I should wait until I see him face to face to work on it, which probably won't be for a month and a half. Which I'll work on it, get it up to par, talk to other professors who have to give me input on one of the lists, do some reading of things that I know that I'll have to get on the list, and study grammar, since I will be taking the test again, I guess September or something. They haven't actually told me anything about it, and knowing how things normally go with the program, or at least how they've gone the past, 2 times that they've done the test, they probably won't tell me until the day of or an hour before or something like that. Or maybe they'll do it a bit rather this year. Here's hoping. But anyway, I lost my train of thought now. Can someone just shout out what I was talking about before? Go ahead, just shout out. I'll hear you. The wedding, which was after hanging out at home for a week and a half. Actually, probably 2 or 3 weeks. So to go to the wedding, I had to get a suit. And if it's the very suit that you can see me wearing in Facebook. To get the suit, I had to go visit the family of Maldo, Antonio, who is the roommate currently of Maria Jose. And they've been friends for quite a long, long time. So the trip itself was actually really, really cool. I was just sort of expecting to go pick up the suit, and that was that. But it was good. things that are worth mentioning with the trip, I had an entire meal of jamón ibérico, which is this really, really good ham that they take, and I guess for the really, really expensive stuff, it's a specific kind of pig, the Iberian pig, which is distinguished by its black paws or black feet. And they feed him acorns all his life until he reaches the logical conclusion of being a well-fed pig. And then they take his legs and put them in a barrel full of salt and leave it in an elevated location in the mountains for something like 9 months or I don't know, a year, or maybe even 2 years. I don't know the process terribly well, but it comes out this really, really good stuff. Like, I don't know how much you would normally pay for ham, but here you can pay up to, for a really good plate, you can pay up to like 12, 15 euros for something that probably amounts to like yay, stack yay big of ham. But it is really, really good. It is very, very much a delicacy and something that I really, really wish was far more widespread in the US. Anyway, so I had an entire meal of that, and it was just like the best thing ever. Maldo's mom is a really, really good cook. I had fried peppers, also the best thing ever. I had some crabs. That was really, really good. And we continue to eat very, very well. Maldo also gave us a tour of the town, which was cool. We went up to the mountains where, weirdly enough, they used to do this essential oils industry. I didn't ask what kind of plants they use, but it was cool. It was cool to go up to the mountains, pine forest. Also went down to saw a couple of I don't know, saw the church, which was kind of in a state of disrepair, but it was interesting. Apparently, his town, Ethnaioth, has a good deal of history, I guess, as anything does, going all the way back to the Roman era. It was, and despite it being a pretty small town that apparently, from what people said about it, no one really, really likes, it's had a lot of strategic importance throughout history, during the Spanish Civil War or also during the Reconquista. So that was really, really cool. I'm already 12 minutes into this, and I feel like I'm just sort of talking in circles a bit. So anyway, getting to the wedding. The wedding was great. It was an open bar, so you can imagine how good that was. They had Amontillado and Pedro Jimenez, which was really, really good. Tocino del Cielo for dessert, which was also good. It's kind of tough to describe it. It's one of these Spanish desserts. It's a lot like flan, but a bit different. I guess I can't actually explain how different it is, but it has more of a burnt sugar flavor. The Spanish really like the burnt sugar flavoring in their desserts, which I'm not a huge fan of, but hey, I'll eat it. The wedding was cool. Did a whole ton of dancing, which was really, really fun. They were not joking around about the open bar at all. At the end of the night, the waiters came around giving you broth, which when you asked them, they said it was for hangovers. So, yeah, definitely an open bar. I did a lot of dancing, which was really fun. It was cool because the music that they played, 90% of it I didn't recognize, and the 10% I did recognize was all from very Spanish context. So it's very different from any wedding I've been to in the US, which was, exciting in a way. They had it was a lot like one of our weddings, only they cut the cake with a sword, which both the bride and groom use together. So that was really cool. And if I ever get married, that's probably one tradition that I'm going to be using. They didn't do it at this one, but apparently it's also a tradition to cut the groom's tie and then to cut it into pieces and sell it. And, the money, of course, goes to the bride and groom. But that was cool. Yeah, it was just a really, really fun night on the whole. I was kind of dreading it, as I usually dread weddings, but really ended up having a much better time than I expected. So that was cool. Just glancing over my list to make sure I'm not missing anything, and it would actually seem that, no, for once I've covered everything. I'm going to try and keep it down under 15 minutes, which gives me one more minute. So just to talk about a bit more what I'm doing now, going to keep meeting with the tutor, going to keep going to the gym. There's 2 more weeks left on my routine, and maybe if things go well, I'll sign up temporarily for a gym back in Muskego for a week just to kind of round out the plan. Since 4 weeks is great, if I could do 5 weeks, it'd be great, and I'd feel much better about kind of putting a pin in it and putting things on hold before coming back to it and continuing. It's one of these things where it's a 4-week long cycle, and I feel like if I start the cycle again with a week 5, it'll be good. Anyway, more boring gym stuff that probably isn't as interesting as other things that I've said. However, I'm currently working on preparing 2 lists for my oral exams. There are 30 books each. I think I explained this before. One is on the theme, which from initial feedback from the professor, he didn't talk as much about it, so it makes me feel like he was pretty satisfied with it. The second list he talked a bit more about, and it was because I guess I didn't understand his expectations, and it's fine. I'll go back, fix it, submit it, and it'll be good. And that's the field list. The first one's organized around a theme where you have to pick from modern, colonial, medieval, Renaissance, Restoration, Latin America, and also Spain. So you pick maybe 5 books from 5 different areas that cover all of that. So it's kind of tough, but at the same time really a rewarding sort of experience. It was fun to kind of see how the different form that my themes could take, through a time and space. The second one is a field list. So I'm doing 15 half Middle Ages and half Renaissance. And that one's fun too. It's a bit more lenient since I don't have to develop the theme quite as much. And it's easier to develop it since I'm just doing 2 time periods and both in Spain. So that's kind of that. Just have to finalize those, get people to approve them, and I already have an idea of what I'm going to be reading for the critical part of it. So it's just kind of a process of going back and reading. I've got like 3 books that I can read, 4 books that I can read here over the next 2 weeks, plus again studying for grammar. So I'm actually in pretty good shape. Not happy about it, but I'm going to have to buy a second suitcase because there's just no way I can take the book, souvenirs, and the wine back. And weirdly enough, from what I've seen, it seems cheaper to bite the bullet and pay the $100 extra baggage fee than it is to find any way to mail things back home. So there's that. The flight should be good. I always enjoy transatlantic flights because it's my chance to get caught up on all these movies that have been coming out. Although, knowing my luck, it'll be the 3 movies that I've actually seen and like nothing else. In which case, I'll like pop some melatonin and it'll be great. Flying out with Aer Lingus, had a good time, good experience with him. And I might luck out and get the entire aisle to myself, which is really, really good because you can just kind of stretch out, which is the best possible thing that you can do for a 6 or 8 hour, however long it is, trip. So not a whole lot planned. Just kind of, spending some last minute time with Maria and other friends that I have here, kind of going to take my time to say goodbye to Granada, which is where I've lived for the past like 9 months. It's really, well, almost 9 months, which is really, really crazy to think about. It's, I guess, not that big of a deal. It's been a long time, and I lived 9 months in Chicago by comparison before then. But, it's something I'm still sort of coming to grips with, the idea of saying goodbye and all that. Although I am looking forward to seeing all of you, so make sure you're all in like Muskego. For crying out loud, as much as you possibly can be. If you're not family, we can find a way to put you up. If you are family, then you really have no excuse whatsoever, especially Matthew. I'll be so sad if you're gone for the entire week that I'm there. And I guess Andrew, you'll be in Texas. I'm going to call you at some point, but I want to find a way to visit you at some point. So figure out a way that would be easy, and I'll fly out for a weekend, one of these weekends. And Thomas, I'm holding like 4 bottles of really, really good wine hostage. It's so good wine that I would almost rather like sever my arm and give it to you than part with this wine. Almost. So anyway, love you all. Drop me an email or get a hold of me through Skype or Google or Facebook or whatever, since I would love to hear what's going on with all of you. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. I have mixed feelings about leaving here, but it'll be really, really nice to be home again. So, bye. Love you. Miss you. And ciao.